The forest of Kepler 442b stretched in every direction, its purple canopy blocking most of the orange sunlight. Lisa Martinez knelt beside a fallen log, her scanner beeping softly in her hand. The device showed movement under the rotting wood, something small and fast. "Got another one," she called out to her team. Kefthur approached, his long limbs moving with careful grace. The Vryn expedition leader stood nearly 7 feet tall, his silver skin catching the filtered light. His large eyes blinked slowly as he watched Lisa work. "What species have you located?" he asked, his voice carrying the musical quality all Vryn possessed. Lisa lifted the log carefully. A creature skittered out, roughly the size of a rabbit. Its body was covered in dark chitinous plates that gleamed like wet stone. Sharp spines ran along its back, and 6 legs carried it quickly across the ground. Lisa moved faster. Her hand shot out and grabbed the creature behind its head. "Ridgeback," she said, holding it up. "Native to this region. Look at those spines. Probably venomous." Chanel, the Vryn medical specialist, stepped back quickly. Her silver skin paled to almost white. "You are holding a venomous creature with your bare hands?" Lisa smiled. "It can't reach me if I hold it like this. See? The spines can't bend this far back." Chris Bennett, the human pilot, walked over with the collection containers. He was a broad-shouldered man with easy confidence. "Need a box for that one?" "Not yet," Lisa said. She examined the creature closely, turning it to see all angles. "Let me check something first." Kefthur activated his own scanner. "We should contain it properly and begin full analysis back at camp. The venom composition alone will require several days of study." Lisa wasn't listening. She felt along the creature's shell, finding the seams where the plates met. Her grandfather had taught her to read animals, to understand their bodies. This ridgeback was healthy, well-fed. The plates were thick but not diseased. She pressed gently on the creature's throat, feeling for the venom sacs. "What are you doing?" Chanel asked, her voice rising slightly. "Checking if it's safe," Lisa said simply. Before anyone could respond, Lisa twisted the creature's neck. The snap was quick and clean. The ridgeback went limp in her hands. Kefthur made a sound like wind through crystals. "You killed a specimen." "We have 3 others already," Lisa said. She sat down on the log and began peeling back the chitinous plates. They came away with small cracking sounds, revealing pale flesh underneath. Chanel's eyes widened to twice their normal size. "Surely you are not going to." Lisa pulled a chunk of meat free and bit into it. The flesh was tender, slightly sweet. She chewed thoughtfully, then swallowed. "Not bad. Tastes like chicken." The 2 Vryn stood frozen. Their skin had gone completely pale, almost translucent. Kefthur's mouth opened and closed several times before words came out. "You consumed unprocessed biological matter from an unknown species," he said. Each word came slowly, as if he was trying to make sense of an impossible thing. "You ate a potentially toxic creature, raw, without any analysis." Chris laughed. "Lisa's done worse. Remember those rock crabs on Titan Station? Those were certified safe by the health board," Kefthur said weakly. Lisa pulled another piece of meat free, examining the tissue underneath. "See this membrane? The pale yellow color? That tells you the protein chains are compatible with most carbon-based life forms. If it was dark green or had purple veins, that would mean toxic. My grandpa showed me that trick. Your grandfather taught you to consume unknown alien creatures?" Chanel asked. She seemed unable to look away, even though the sight clearly disturbed her. "He taught me to survive," Lisa said. She removed a small sac near the creature's spine, careful not to break it. "These are the venom glands. You don't eat these parts, but the rest is fine." Kefthur's hand moved to his communicator. I must insist you submit to immediate medical scanning. You have exposed yourself to unknown pathogens, possible toxins, and incompatible proteins. The risk of severe biological contamination is extremely high. Lisa stood up, still holding the half-eaten Ridgeback. Sure, scan me. But I feel fine. They returned to camp quickly. The Vrin medical equipment was far more advanced than anything humans had built. Chanel ran every test she could think of. The results appeared on holographic displays around Lisa. "This is impossible," Chanel whispered. "What's wrong?" Chris asked, concern creeping into his voice. "Nothing is wrong. That is what is impossible." Chanel pointed at the displays. "She is perfectly healthy. Better than healthy. Her digestive system is already breaking down the foreign proteins efficiently. Her immune system has identified and cataloged the new biological markers. There is no rejection, no toxicity, no adverse reaction of any kind." Kevther studied the data. His long fingers moved through the holographic information. "How is this possible? She consumed an unprocessed creature from a completely alien ecosystem. The probability of compatible biochemistry is infinitesimally small. Humans are different," Chris said. He leaned against the medical bay wall. "We come from Earth." "Yes, we are aware of your planet's classification," Kevther said. "A Class 9 death world. But that should make this more dangerous, not less." "You've got it backward," Lisa said from the medical scanner. "Earth being dangerous is exactly why I can do this. My body is used to dealing with things trying to kill it." Chanel shook her head. "The Vrin homeworld has minimal seasonal variation. Our food sources are stable and predictable. We evolved in harmony with our environment. Earth tried to kill us every day," Lisa said. "Still does in a lot of places. Predators, diseases, poisonous plants, toxic animals, extreme weather. My grandpa grew up in Montana. Winters could drop to 40 below zero. Summers hit over 100 degrees. He learned to eat whatever he could find because supermarkets were 50 miles away and the roads weren't always passable." "But you have technology now," Kevther said. "Surely such primitive knowledge is no longer necessary." Chris laughed again. "You ever have your ship crash on an uncharted world? Technology fails. Nature doesn't." Lisa climbed out of the scanner. "My grandpa always said the same thing. He taught me which plants were safe, how to find clean water, how to tell if an animal was sick or healthy. He could survive anywhere on Earth without any tools at all." "That seems highly improbable," Chanel said. "I'll show you tomorrow," Lisa offered. "We're supposed to do another survey sweep in the northern quadrant. I'll teach you what to look for." Kevther and Chanel exchanged glances. The Vrin had their own silent way of communicating. Subtle shifts in skin color and small gestures. "We would prefer to observe from a safe distance," Kevther said finally. That night, Lisa sat outside the camp, looking up at the unfamiliar stars. She thought about her grandfather, gone now for 3 years. He would have loved this world. He would have walked into that forest and come back with dinner, knowing exactly what was safe and what WSN single quotes to dot Chris joined her, carrying 2 containers of synthesized coffee. "You scared them pretty good today." "Didn't mean to," Lisa said, accepting the coffee. "It just seemed natural. To you, maybe. To them, you might as well have grabbed lightning." Chris sipped his drink. "They don't understand us yet. Humans, I mean. They think we're just another species with fancy ships. We are, aren't we?" "No." Chris gestured at the forest. "Every other species out here came from comfortable worlds. They built technology because they had the luxury of safety. We built it because we were desperate to survive. There's a difference." Lisa finished her coffee. In the distance, something howled. It was a lonely sound, predatory and wild. She recognized it from their surveys. A pack hunter, calling to its family. The Vrin guards at the camp perimeter raised their weapons, nervous. Lisa just smiled. Some things were the same no matter which world you were on. Predators hunted. Prey survived. And humans did both. Tomorrow would be interesting. The morning sun rose orange over Kepler 442b, painting the purple forest in shades of rust. Lisa woke early, as she always did. The habit came from her grandfather, who insisted that sunrise was when the world showed its secrets. She found Kevther already awake, studying data on his portable terminal. The Vrin leader looked up as she approached. "Good morning, Lisa Martinez. I spent the night reviewing information about Earth. Find anything interesting?" Lisa poured herself coffee from the synthesizer. Disturbing would be more accurate. Kevther's skin shifted to a darker silver, a sign of concern among his people. "Your planet is classified as a Class 9 death world. Only 12 known inhabited planets share this classification. Most species would die within days of exposure to your environment." Lisa sat down across from him. "It's not that bad once you get used to it. Your oceans contain predators large enough to consume your largest vehicles. Your weather systems produce winds that exceed the speed of sound. Your tectonic activity causes the ground itself to shake and break. Your atmosphere has violent electrical storms. Your microorganisms cause thousands of fatal diseases." Kevther's voice carried genuine confusion. "How did your species survive long enough to develop civilization?" "We adapted," Lisa said simply. "That's what humans do." Chanel emerged from the medical tent, her skin still pale from the previous day's shock. "I also researched your species last night. The data is quite alarming." "Let me guess," Chris said, joining them with his own coffee. "You found out about our immune systems?" "Among other things." Chanel activated her own display. Images of human biology appeared in the air between them. "Your bodies maintain multiple defensive systems simultaneously. You produce acids strong enough to dissolve metal in your digestive tract. Your immune system attacks millions of threats every day. You have backup organs in case primary ones fail. Your bones are designed to break and repair themselves. You even have specialized cells that deliberately destroy themselves to prevent disease spread." "Sounds about right," Chris said. "It sounds like a description of a military weapon," Kevther said quietly. "Not a natural life form." Lisa laughed. "We're not weapons. We're survivors. There's a difference." "Explain this difference, please," Kevther said. "I wish to understand." Lisa thought about how to put it into words. "My grandfather told me stories about his grandfather, who lived through hard times. Food was scarce. Medicine was basic. People had to know how to do everything themselves because help might not come. He learned from his father, who learned from his father before that. Hundreds of generations of humans passing down knowledge about how to survive. But why was survival so difficult?" Chanel asked. "The Vrin homeworld provides abundant resources. Food grows naturally in forms we can consume. Water is clean and plentiful. The climate is stable. Earth isn't like that," Lisa said. "Our planet has deserts where nothing grows. Frozen wastelands where the cold kills in minutes. Jungles so thick you can't see the sky. Mountains so high there isn't enough air to breathe. And all of it changes with the seasons." Kevther's eyes widened. "Your entire planet has significant seasonal variation?" "Most of it, yeah. Summer, fall, winter, spring. Temperature can swing 100 degrees between seasons in some places." "That would devastate our agriculture," Chanel said. "How do you maintain consistent food supplies?" "We don't," Chris said. "That's the point. Humans learn to store food, preserve it, hunt different animals in different seasons, grow crops that match the climate. We had to constantly adjust. Tevther stood and walked to the edge of camp, looking out at the forest. I begin to understand. The Vrin developed technology to enhance our comfortable existence. Humans developed technology to survive an actively hostile one. That's why Lisa can eat that ridgeback, Chris continued. Humans on Earth ate thousands of different species. Some were poisonous until we learned how to cook them properly. Some carried diseases until we learned to identify the sick ones. We learned by trial and error across thousands of years. Many humans must have died during this learning process, Chanel said softly. Yeah, Lisa agreed. But enough survived to teach the next generation. And we remembered. Every culture on Earth has knowledge about local food, local dangers, local survival techniques. My grandfather's knowledge came from Montana, but I have friends whose grandparents taught them to survive in deserts, rainforests, islands, tundra. All different, but all based on the same principle. What principle? Kevther asked. Pay attention to your environment. Learn to read the signs. Never assume you're safe. Lisa finished her coffee. My grandpa used to say that nature wasn't good or evil. It just was. You either learned to live with it or you died. A sound from the forest interrupted them. Something large was moving through the undergrowth. The Vrin immediately reached for their weapons. Chris held up a hand. Wait, just listen. They stood quietly. The sound grew closer. Branches breaking, heavy footsteps. Then a creature emerged into the clearing. It was massive, easily the size of an earth elephant, with thick scaled hide and a long neck. It looked at the camp with huge, gentle eyes. Fascinating, Kevther breathed. A herbivore, based on the tooth structure visible in the mouth. The creature walked calmly past the camp, heading toward the stream nearby. It lowered its head to drink. Why is it not afraid of us? Chanel asked. Probably never seen anything like us before, Lisa said. No learned fear. It doesn't know we could be dangerous. Should we not warn it somehow? Kevther asked. If it approaches other camps, someone might harm it. Chris shook his head. That's a very Vrin way of thinking. No offense. Please explain. You want to protect it because you see it as innocent. Humans would think about whether it could hurt us first, protect us second, and worry about it third. That seems cruel, Chanel said. Maybe, Lisa said. But it's also why humans are still alive. On Earth, lots of animals look harmless. Plenty of them can kill you anyway. My grandpa taught me to respect every animal, no matter how gentle it seemed. He showed me scars from a deer that almost kicked his ribs through his lungs. The large creature finished drinking and wandered back into the forest. The Vrin watched it go with something like sadness. Your world made you suspicious, Kevther said. Always watching for danger. It kept us alive, Chris said. They spent the rest of the morning on the survey mission. Lisa identified 17 different edible plants, 9 types of safe water sources, and 3 species of insect that provided good protein. The Vrin documented everything, but their discomfort was obvious. When Lisa offered Esnel a piece of local fruit, the medical specialist stared at it like it might explode. It is unprocessed, Chanel said. I cannot simply consume it. It's just fruit, Lisa said. She bit into another one herself. The juice ran down her chin. Sweet, little bit tart. Really good. Chanel's skin shifted through several colors, expressing emotions the humans couldn't quite read. Finally, she took the smallest possible bite. Her face contorted immediately. She made a choking sound and spit it out. Apologies, she gasped. The texture. The lack of processing. My body rejected it immediately. But the scan showed it was safe for Vrim biology, Kevther said, checking his data. Safe and palatable are different things, Chris noted. She's never eaten anything that wasn't processed in a lab. Her body doesn't know what to do with raw food. Lisa felt a pang of sympathy. I'm sorry. I didn't think about that. It is not your fault, Chanel said, recovering her composure. I simply lack your adaptation. The Vrin have not consumed unprocessed food in over 3,000 years. Perhaps our biology has changed. Or maybe you never needed to adapt in the first place, Lisa said. She looked around at the alien forest. Your world was kind to you. Ours wasn't. Different circumstances, different solutions. They continued the survey until midday. Kevther asked endless questions about Lisa's grandfather, about human survival knowledge, about Earth's environments. He seemed genuinely fascinated by the concept of learned survival skills. On the Vrin homeworld, such knowledge is unnecessary, he explained. Our youth learned science, art, philosophy. Survival is automatic, handled by our stable environment and technology. What happens if the technology fails? Chris asked. Kevther didn't answer immediately. When he did, his voice was quiet. We have never needed to consider that scenario. That afternoon, the sky began to change. The orange sun dimmed. Clouds rolled in from the east, thick and dark. The wind picked up, carrying a strange metallic smell. Lisa stopped walking. That's not normal weather. The meteorological forecasts show clear conditions for the next 6 days, Kevther said, checking his instruments. He frowned. The instruments are malfunctioning. I am receiving contradictory data. The wind grew stronger. Lightning flickered in the distance, but it was wrong somehow. The color was too blue. Too bright. Chris pulled out his communicator. Base, this is Survey Team Beta. We have unusual weather developing. Request immediate atmospheric analysis. Static answered him. Base, do you copy? Chris repeated. More static. Then nothing? The communicator went dead in his hand. Chanel's medical scanner flickered and shut down. Kevther's analysis equipment followed seconds later. All around them, technology began to fail. The first real lightning strike hit a tree half a mile away. The sound that followed. The electromagnetic storm hit like a wave of invisible fire. Every piece of technology in the survey team's possession died within minutes. Communicators, scanners, even their portable shelter generator simply stopped working. Lisa grabbed her pack and started moving. There's a rock formation about 200 yards north. I saw it during the morning survey. We can shelter there. Should we not attempt to repair the equipment first? Kevther asked. His skin had turned pale with stress. No time, Chris said. He was already following Lisa. Move now, fix later. The Vrin hesitated for precious seconds before following. They weren't built for running. Their long legs were designed for grace, not speed. By the time they reached the rocks, the rain had started. It wasn't like rain on Earth. The drops were larger, heavier, and they fell with enough force to sting exposed skin. Lisa found an overhang in the rock face, a shallow cave barely deep enough for all 4 of them. They huddled together as the storm raged outside. Lightning painted the world in stuttering blue-white flashes. The thunder that wasn't thunder shook dust from the cave ceiling. I have never experienced weather like this, Chanel said. Her voice trembled. It's just a storm, Lisa said, trying to sound calm. We waited out, but the storm didn't stop. Hours passed. The rain continued with mechanical consistency, as if the planet itself was trying to drown them. The temperature dropped. Lisa noticed Ishtinal and Kevther starting to shiver. Are you cold? She asked. The temperature has decreased by 15 degrees, Kevther said. Our clothing was designed for the previous climate conditions. Chris dug through his pack. I've got an emergency thermal blanket. Standard Earth survival gear. He pulled out a thin metallic sheet and wrapped it around the 2 Vrin. They huddled together, looking miserable and small. Lisa checked her own pack. Military-grade survival kit. Standard issue for all human exploration personnel. Waterproof matches. Basic first aid. Water purification tablets. Emergency rations. Knife. Rope. Fire starter. Her grandfather would have approved. "We need to take inventory," she said. "Figure out what we have." Chris nodded and began laying out his gear. Kefter and Chanel did the same, though their equipment was dead weight now. Advanced medical scanners that couldn't scan. Communication devices that couldn't communicate. Food synthesizers that couldn't synthesize. "Our emergency rations are intact," Kefter said. He pulled out several sealed packages. "Sufficient for 3 days at normal consumption." "How long until rescue?" Lisa asked. Kefter's skin shifted to a gray color. "The base camp is programmed to send a search team if we miss 2 consecutive check-ins. However, our last successful check-in was this morning. The next scheduled check-in is tomorrow evening. If we miss that one, they will begin search operations the following morning. 2.5 days minimum," Chris calculated. "Plus however long it takes them to find us in this mess. The emergency rations will suffice," Chanel said. Lisa opened one of the packages and immediately smelled something wrong. The synthetic food inside was discolored, wet at the edges. She checked another package. "Same problem. Your rations are contaminated," she said quietly. "The storm moisture got into them somehow." Kefter checked his packages frantically. All of them showed signs of water damage. The processed food inside was growing things it shouldn't grow. Blue-green patches of what looked like mold spread across the synthesized nutrients. "This is impossible," Kefter whispered. "These packages are rated for extreme conditions. Water cannot penetrate the seal." "Apparently it can," Chris said. He checked his own human rations. They were fine, sealed in different packaging that Earth's harsh environment had taught humans to design properly. "Lisa and I have food. Enough for a week if we're careful." "We will share your rations," Chanel said. "Equal portions for all." Lisa exchanged a look with Chris. They both knew what had to be said. "You can't eat our food," Lisa said gently. "It's designed for human biology. High protein, high density. Your digestive systems can't process it." "Remember the fruit?" The silence that followed was heavy. Rain continued to hammer the ground outside. Lightning flickered. "How long can you survive without food?" Chris asked. "Vrim metabolism is efficient," Kefter said. "We can function for approximately 7 days without sustenance. Perhaps 10 if we minimize physical activity. And then we die," Kefter said simply. His skin had gone completely gray now. Lisa stood up and looked out at the rain. "Then we find you food." "There is no processed food available," Chanel said. "Even if we could reach the base camp, which is 2 weeks' travel on foot, the journey would be impossible without nutrition." "Who said anything about processed food?" Lisa turned back to them. "This planet has life. Life means food. We cannot consume unprocessed biological matter," Kefter said. "You saw a meatless reaction to the simple fruit. That's because you tried to eat it raw," Lisa said. An idea was forming, something her grandfather had taught her during a camping trip when she was 12. What if we processed it ourselves? Without equipment? Chanel looked skeptical. "My grandpa processed food without equipment all the time." Lisa knelt down and started sketching in the dust. "It's called rendering. You break down complex proteins into simpler compounds. Make them easier to digest." Chris leaned forward, understanding dawning. "Like cooking. More than cooking. Fermenting, boiling, straining." Lisa's hand moved quickly, drawing rough diagrams. "We need to get the basic nutrients into a form their bodies can handle. Strip away the complex stuff." "This seems highly theoretical," Kefter said. "The probability of success is better than 0, Lisa interrupted. which is what we have otherwise. The storm raged for another 6 hours before finally beginning to ease. By then, Lisa had a plan. It wasn't a good plan, but it was a plan. When the rain slowed to a drizzle, she and Chris ventured out. The forest was transformed. Water pooled everywhere. Some of the purple vegetation had changed color, the leaves now hanging heavy and dark. "Look for tubers," Lisa said. "Root vegetables. They'll be the easiest to process." They searched for an hour, digging in the soft mud. Lisa found several plants with bulbous roots. She tested them the way her grandfather had taught her. Smell first. Sight second. Small skin contact third. The roots had a clean smell, no bitter alkaloids that might indicate poison. The flesh inside was white and firm. Chris found what looked like grain growing in clumps near the stream. The seeds were small and hard, but plentiful. They returned to the cave with their haul. Kevther and Chanel watched with a mixture of hope and doubt. "Now we need fire," Lisa said. "The emergency fire starter in your pack?" Chris asked. "Dead. Electronic ignition." Lisa showed him the useless device. "We do it the old way." She gathered dry material from the back of the cave, where the rain hadn't reached. Dead leaves, some dry moss, small twigs. Then she found 2 rocks with the right properties. Flint and steel, her grandfather had called it, though these weren't exactly flint or steel. But the principle was the same. Strike, strike, strike. Her hands remembered the motion, even though she hadn't done this in years. Sparks flew. Most died immediately, but one caught. A tiny ember glowed in the tinder. Lisa blew on it gently. The ember grew. Smoke rose. Then, finally, flame. "Fire," Snow whispered. "You created fire without technology." "Humans have been doing this for thousands of years," Chris said. He fed small sticks into the growing flame. Lisa found a flat rock and placed it over the fire. When it was hot enough, she put pieces of the tubers on it. They sizzled and steamed. The smell was strange, but not unpleasant. "This is insane," Kevther said. But he watched intently. The tubers cooked slowly. Lisa mashed them with another rock, adding water from the stream. The result was a pale paste, simple and basic. "The heat breaks down the complex proteins," she explained. "Makes them more digestible. The mashing increases surface area, easier for your system to process. And mixing it with water creates a more liquid form that your bodies might handle better." She offered the paste to Chanel. "Small amounts first. Just a taste." Chanel stared at the offering like it was poison. But hunger and fear won out. She took the smallest possible amount. Seconds passed. Then a minute. Chanel's skin began to return to its normal silver color. "I do not feel ill," she said, surprised. "The texture is still unpleasant, but my body is not rejecting it." Kevther tried some next. His reaction was similar. Not enjoyment, but tolerance. "It's working," Chris said. Lisa felt a weight lift from her shoulders. "My grandpa saved your lives," she said quietly. From 50 light years away and 3 years dead, his knowledge just saved your lives. They spent the rest of the night processing more food, boiling the grain seeds until they were soft, mashing the tubers into digestible paste, creating enough simple nutrition to keep the Vrin alive. By morning, the storm had passed. But when they tried to reach the base camp, they discovered a new problem. The transport vehicle, parked half a mile from their shelter, was destroyed. The electromagnetic storm had fried every circuit. The hull was scorched and cracked. They were stranded. 2 weeks from safety, with limited supplies and 2 aliens whose bodies couldn't handle the local environment. Lisa looked at Chris. He looked back at her. No words were needed. They both knew what came next. They had to walk. 2 weeks through hostile wilderness, teaching the first day of walking nearly broke the Vryn. Kefter and Channel were built for precision, not endurance. Their long legs cramped after the first hour. Their feet, designed for smooth floors and paved surfaces, blistered on the rough ground. Every step seemed to cause them pain. Lisa called a halt after 2 hours. They had covered less than 3 miles. "We can't continue at this pace," Kefter said. His skin was pale with exhaustion. "We will never reach the base camp." "Then we adjust the pace," Lisa said. She had been thinking about this problem since they started. Her grandfather's voice echoed in her memory. "When the terrain beats you, you don't fight it. You adapt to it." She found a spot near the stream and started setting up camp. "We walk in the cool parts of the day. Rest during the heat. Make smaller progress that we can sustain. This will extend our journey significantly," Chanel protested. "Better slow than dead," Chris said. He was already gathering firewood. Lisa taught them how to wrap their feet properly, using strips torn from their emergency blankets. How to walk on uneven ground without twisting ankles. How to find the easiest path instead of the straightest one. That evening, she prepared food again. The process was becoming routine. Gather tubers, wash them, cook them thoroughly, mash them into paste. Collect grain, boil it until soft, strain out the husks. Mix everything with clean water to make it easier to swallow. Chanel watched the process carefully. "May I attempt to help?" Lisa smiled. "Sure. Start by washing these roots in the stream." The medical specialist worked slowly but thoroughly. She examined each root as she cleaned it, her scientific mind cataloging details. "These have a fibrous outer layer. Is this safe to consume?" "No, we peel that off," Lisa showed her. "See how it comes away? The inside is what we want. The inner tissue is softer. Less complex cellular structure," Chanel observed. "Easier for our systems to break down." "Exactly." Lisa felt a small surge of pride. "You're learning." Kefter joined them after resting. "I wish to understand the fermentation process you mentioned earlier." Lisa pulled out her canteen. "I started this yesterday." "See?" She opened it carefully. The grain and water mixture inside was bubbling slightly. Natural yeast in the environment is breaking down the starches into simpler sugars. In a few more days, this will be easier for you to digest than the raw grain. "Remarkable," Kefter said. "We use similar processes in our laboratories, but with controlled bacterial cultures and precise environmental conditions." "My grandpa did it in jars in his basement," Lisa said. "Same result, different method." Over the next several days, they fell into a rhythm. Wake at dawn. Walk for 3 hours. Rest during midday heat. Walk for 3 more hours. Make camp before sunset. Process food, sleep, repeat. The Vryn were learning. Kefter figured out which plants were safe by observing what the local herbivores ate. Chanel learned to identify clean water sources by looking for certain types of algae growth. Small victories, but victories nonetheless. On the 4th day, disaster struck. They heard the creatures before they saw them. A sound like stones grinding together, coming from multiple directions. Chris immediately pushed the Vryn behind him, pulling out his knife. "Lisa?" He called quietly. "I hear them." She scanned the forest. Movement in the shadows. 4 legs. No, 6. Low to the ground. Pack hunters. The creatures emerged. They looked like a cross between wolves and insects, with chitinous plates covering muscular bodies. 6 of them, forming a rough circle around the team. "Do not run," Lisa said softly. "Running triggers their chase instinct. What do we do?" Chanel's voice was tight with fear. Lisa's mind raced. Her grandfather's lessons about predators. Make yourself look bigger. Make noise. Show no weakness. But these weren't Earth predators. Would the same rules apply? The largest creature crept closer. Its eyes were fixed on Kevther, identifying the weakest member of the group. Chris, stay with the Vryn. Keep them behind you. Lisa stepped forward, spreading her arms wide. She yelled, a harsh sound that echoed through the forest. The creatures paused. Confused, Lisa grabbed 2 rocks and smashed them together. The sharp crack made all 6 creatures flinch. She did it again, creating noise, asserting dominance. One of the creatures snarled. But it took a step back. Lisa advanced, still making noise. Chris joined in, banging his knife against a rock. The metallic ring added to the cacophony. The creatures looked at each other. Some silent communication passed between them. Then, as one, they melted back into the forest. Lisa waited a full minute before lowering her arms. Her heart was pounding. How did you know that would work? Kevther asked. I didn't, Lisa admitted. But predators usually avoid fights they're not sure they can win. We made ourselves look dangerous and unpredictable. They decided we weren't worth the risk. On the Vryn homeworld, we have no large predators, Chanel said. We eliminated them thousands of years ago. Earth still has them, Chris said. Bears, wolves, big cats. Humans learned to live alongside them. Or kill them, Kevther said quietly. Sometimes, Lisa agreed. But mostly we learned to avoid each other. Respect each other's space. That night, they built the fire bigger than usual. Lisa showed them how to arrange rocks around it to reflect heat and create a barrier. How to keep watch in shifts. How to read the sounds of the forest to know when danger was near. Chanel took the first watch with Lisa. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the crackle of the fire. I have been thinking about your grandfather, Chanel said. He taught you all of this knowledge. Did he learn it from his grandfather as well? Yeah, and his grandfather learned from his. Going back generations. We do not have this tradition among the Vryn. Knowledge is stored in databases, taught in schools. The idea of wisdom passing from elder to child through demonstration and practice is foreign to us. But you're doing it now, Lisa pointed out. Learning from experience instead of data. Chanel's skin flickered with colors that Lisa was beginning to recognize as thoughtfulness. Yes, I suppose I am. It is uncomfortable, but also strangely satisfying. Like using muscles I did not know I possessed. By the end of the first week, the changes in the Vryn were obvious. They moved more confidently through the forest. Their feet had toughened. Kevther could start a fire now, though it took him longer than Lisa. Chanel could identify safe food sources by sight, but they were also losing weight rapidly. The processed food kept them alive, but didn't provide enough calories. Their bodies were consuming their own reserves. Lisa knew they needed more nutrition. On the 8th day, she caught a ridgeback, like the one she had eaten when this all started. She prepared it carefully, removing the venom sacs and the chitinous plates. Then she cooked the meat thoroughly over the fire until it was falling apart. She mashed it into a paste similar to the tubers. Protein, she explained. You need it. Kevther stared at the offering. This was a living creature. Yes, and now it's food. That's how survival works. He took a small amount, swallowed, waited. His skin shifted through several colors as his body processed the new substance. It is staying down, he said, surprised. The thorough cooking has altered the protein structure significantly. My system is accepting it. Chanel tried some as well. The caloric density is much higher than the plant matter. This will help maintain our strength. That night, for the first time since the storm, the Vryn seemed hopeful. On the 10th day, they saw smoke on the horizon. Not forest fire smoke, but the steady column of a camp or settlement. The base? Chris asked. Lisa checked her handmade map, scratched on a piece of bark. Too far north. But it's definitely artificial. They approached carefully. The smoke came from a small research outpost, automated and abandoned. The electromagnetic storm had fried its systems too, but the structure was intact. Inside, they found shelter. Real walls. A roof. And most importantly, emergency supplies that were stored in non-electronic containment. Water filters. Medical supplies. More emergency rations. They rested there for 2 full days, recovering strength. Lisa used the time to prepare food in larger quantities, building up reserves for the final push to the base camp. On the 13th day, they set out again. Only 4 more days of walking. The Vryn were tired, thin, but alive. More than alive. They had changed. Kevther no longer flinched at every sound in the forest. Chanel could process and cook food without supervision. They had learned to read weather patterns, to find north by the position of the orange sun, to work together as a team instead of relying on technology. That evening, as they made camp, Kevther approached Lisa. "I wish to thank you," he said formally. "Not just for keeping us alive, but for teaching us. My people have grown dependent on our technology. We forgot that we are also biological beings with the capacity to adapt." "Your technology is good," Lisa said, "but it's not everything." "No," Kevther agreed. "It is not. Your grandfather understood this. He lived in a world of advanced technology but chose to maintain primitive skills. I thought this was foolish when you first mentioned it. Now I understand it was wisdom." Lisa felt tears threaten. She blinked them away. "He would have liked you, once you got past the being terrified of everything part." Kevther's skin brightened with what Lisa had learned was their version of laughter. "I suspect I would have liked him as well." The next morning, they saw the base camp in the distance. Rescue. The base camp erupted in chaos when the 4 bedraggled figures emerged from the forest. Medical team swarmed them immediately. Chanel and Kevther were rushed to the Vryn medical facility, while human doctors examined Lisa and Chris. Everyone was shouting questions. What happened? Where were they? Why didn't they make contact? "Electromagnetic storm," Chris said simply. "Fried everything." We walked back. The human doctor checking Lisa's vitals blinked. "You walked? For 2 weeks? Through uncharted wilderness?" 13 days, Lisa corrected. "And it wasn't uncharted. I made a map." She pulled out the piece of bark with her scratch notations. The doctor stared at it like she had presented him with ancient hieroglyphics. In the Vryn medical bay, chaos of a different kind was unfolding. The scanner showed that Kevther and Chanel had lost nearly 20% of their body mass. Their systems were stressed but functional. But what shocked the Vryn doctors most was what they found in the digestive tract analysis. "This is impossible," the lead physician said. "You have consumed unprocessed biological matter. Multiple species. Your systems should have rejected all of it." "It was processed," Chanel explained. "Just not in the way you mean. Heat treatment, mechanical breakdown, fermentation. The human Lisa Martinez taught us." "A human taught you survival processing techniques?" "She saved our lives," Kevther said firmly. "Her knowledge, passed down from her grandfather, kept us alive when all our technology failed." The Vryn doctors exchanged glances. They had no frame of reference for this. The idea that ancient, primitive knowledge could succeed where advanced technology failed contradicted everything they understood about progress. Lisa and Chris were cleared medically within an hour. The humans were dehydrated and tired, but otherwise healthy. Lisa had actually gained 3 pounds from the high-protein diet. That evening, the base commander called a full debriefing. Humans and Vryn gathered in the conference room. Kevther stood to deliver his report. 17 days ago, our survey team encountered an unprecedented electromagnetic storm. All technology was rendered inoperable. Emergency rations were contaminated. Transportation was destroyed. We were stranded in hostile wilderness with no means of communication or survival beyond our own biological capabilities. He paused, letting the weight of that sink in. By every logical calculation, Chanel and I should have died. Our species lacks the adaptation necessary to survive in unprocessed environments. We cannot consume raw food. We cannot tolerate extreme temperature variations. We have no instinctive knowledge of shelter building, water purification, or hazard identification. Another pause. We survived because of the humans. Specifically, because of knowledge passed from Lisa Martinez's grandfather to her, and from her to us. This knowledge, which we would have classified as primitive and irrelevant, proved more valuable than any technology in our possession. Murmurs ran through the assembled crowd. The Vryn delegation looked uncomfortable. The human contingent looked proud but tried to hide it. Kevther continued. I am recommending immediate changes to our joint expedition protocols. All Vryn personnel working in wilderness environments should receive basic survival training from human instructors. Furthermore, I am proposing a formal study of human adaptive knowledge systems, particularly the intergenerational transfer of practical survival skills. The Vryn delegation leader stood. Her name was Telshara, and she was old even by Vryn standards. You are suggesting we learn primitive techniques? Regress our civilization? I am suggesting we learn to survive without absolute dependence on technology, Kevther replied. There is a difference between regression and adaptation. Telshara's skin shifted through several colors. The Vryn abandoned such primitive practices 3,000 years ago. We evolved beyond them. Lisa stood up. She hadn't planned to speak, but the words came anyway. With respect, ma'am, you didn't evolve beyond them. You just never needed them. Your world was kind to you. Earth wasn't kind to us. So we learned to be tough instead. That's not better or worse. It's just different. Different how? Telshara asked. My grandfather used to say that technology is a tool, but knowledge is a weapon. Tools break. Knowledge doesn't. He lived in a world with computers and cars and all kinds of technology, but he still knew how to start a fire with rocks, how to find clean water, how to tell if food was safe, because he knew that someday, somewhere, the tools might fail. Lisa gestured at Kevther and Chanel, and he was right. The tools failed, but the knowledge saved lives. The room fell silent. Finally, one of the human expedition leaders spoke. The girls got a point. We train all our personnel in survival skills, not because we expect to use them, but because the universe is unpredictable. Better to have the knowledge and not need it. Telshara sat down slowly. I will consider the recommendation. Over the next several days, Kevther filed his formal report. It was detailed, thorough, and impossible to ignore. He documented every survival technique Lisa had taught them, every adaptation they had made, every moment when primitive knowledge succeeded where technology failed. The report went beyond the Vryn delegation. It reached the Galactic Council, the governing body that oversaw relations between spacefaring species. Within weeks, it became required reading for all expedition planners. The discussion it sparked was fierce. Some species agreed with Kevther, seeing value in human survival knowledge. Others dismissed it as irrelevant, insisting that better technology was the answer to any crisis. But slowly, change began. Chanel requested permission to visit Earth. Her petition was approved. She spent 3 months learning from human survival experts. When she returned to the Vryn homeworld, she was different. Tougher, more confident. She began teaching other Vrin the basics of wilderness survival. Kefthur became an advocate for cross-species training programs. He gave lectures about his experience, always crediting Lisa and her grandfather's wisdom. He argued that every species had valuable knowledge to share, shaped by their unique evolutionary paths. For Lisa, life returned to something like normal. She continued her work as a xenobiologist, but now other species requested her specifically. They wanted to learn from the human who could survive anywhere. She began recording her grandfather's teachings, not in dry technical language, but in stories, the way he had taught her. She talked about fishing trips where he showed her which plants were edible, camping trips where he taught her to read the weather, long winter nights when he explained how their ancestors survived before supermarkets and heaters. The recordings became popular, not just among humans, but across multiple species. There was something universal in the idea of an elder passing knowledge to a younger generation, of wisdom earned through experience rather than downloaded from a database. One evening, 6 months after the rescue, Lisa sat in her quarters and composed a message. Not a recording this time, just words written old-fashioned style on actual paper. "Dear Grandpa," she wrote, "I know you're gone. I know you'll never read this, but I need to tell you anyway. Your tricks saved lives, not just mine. Alien lives from a species you never met on a world you never imagined. The things you taught me about surviving in Montana, wilderness worked on Kepler 442b. They worked because the principles were universal. Pay attention, adapt, respect your environment, use what you have. Never give up." She paused, pen hovering over paper. "I used to think your knowledge was outdated. Quaint stories from a time before modern convenience. I was wrong. You understood something that a lot of advanced civilizations forgot. Technology is amazing, but it's not infallible. The ability to survive without it, to adapt to whatever environment you're in, that's not primitive. That's wisdom. I'm teaching others now. Vrin, humans, even some of the other species. I teach them the way you taught me. Not lectures, not data downloads, stories, demonstrations, hands-on practice. Some of them struggle with it. They're so used to technology doing everything for them. But they're learning. Chanel, the Vrin medical specialist, she reminds me of you in some ways. She asks endless questions. She wants to understand not just what works, but why it works. Last week, she successfully started a fire using friction. She was so proud. Made me think of when I first did it, how excited I was to show you. I think you would like her. I think you would like all of them, once you got past them being aliens. Because at the core, they're just people trying to survive in a big, complicated universe. Same as us." Lisa stopped writing. Tears blurred her vision. She let them fall. "I miss you, Grandpa. I miss our talks. I miss your stories. But I understand now why you insisted on teaching me all those old skills. You knew the world could change in unexpected ways. You knew that the tools we depend on might not always be there. You wanted me to be able to stand on my own, no matter what happened. You succeeded. Because of you, I survived. And because of you, I helped others survive. Your knowledge traveled across stars to save lives you never imagined. If that's not a legacy, I don't know what is." She signed a letter, folded it carefully, and placed it in a frame on her wall, next to a picture of a weathered old man with kind eyes and calloused hands. Her grandfather, standing in the Montana wilderness he loved so much. A chime at her door interrupted her thoughts. Chris stood outside,